Welcome to Wild Turkey Science, a podcast sponsored by Turkeys for Tomorrow. I'm Dr. Marcus Lashley, Professor of Wildlife Ecology at the University of Florida.
And I'm Dr. Will Gulsby, Professor of Wildlife Ecology and Management at Auburn University. We're both lifelong hunters and devoted scientists who are passionate about hunting, managing, and researching wild turkeys.
In this podcast, we'll explore turkey research, speak to the experts in the field, and address the difficult questions related to wild turkey ecology and management.
Our goal
is to serve as your connection to wild turkey science.
Because this is one of the things we wanted to drill down on in our introductory episode is, who are we? Why are we here? What is the objective of this podcast? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking real hard on that. And what I arrived at as far as what the objective is or what the purpose is of this podcast is there's just not enough podcasts. Is that it? We need to add one more to the mix.
There's only like 10 million gigabytes a day uploaded to podcasts.
Is that how much it is?
I don't know. I was just making that up.
I did hear the other day that there are now millions of podcasts.
Yeah, it is. That's a saturated market. But to me, to answer that same question, being a little more serious, there are a few really good ones about turkeys.
Right.
And I've learned a lot from them, especially, how to hunt turkeys and listening to other people chasing turkeys, and I just enjoy that.
And there's several of them that even have scientists come on too.
Yeah, and we've both been on some of those podcasts, and they're great, but turkeys aren't doing real well.
Right.
Like, we're worried about them.
Right.
And this, for me, was an opportunity for us as scientists who were trained not only to go out and turkey hunt. I love doing that. I know you do. But we're also trained to dig up science.
To think scientifically.
Yeah. To create new knowledge from science, to interpret the science that others have created. There have been a lot of people work on turkeys for a long time. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of information out there, and it's not extremely accessible, particularly on this species.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things that the current turkey-centric podcasts have to struggle with is they have multiple competing objectives. They're trying to cover the hunting and the techniques and the stories of the hunt that everybody want to hear, that I'm always interested to hear too. And then intermittently they're injecting, a scientist coming in talking about their latest research. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's what everybody wants to hear about is what's on the cutting edge. What are you doing right now? What are you seeing? That's what they always want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's great. But the problem with it is that they don't have that time to go back and sort through the volumes of information that we already have on turkeys. So that's kind of one of those things that we want to try to address.
Yeah. And so we're both trained really well and very interested. I mean, I dig around in that stuff for fun. Mm-hmm. I also happen to get paid to do that, so that's nice too. But there's a world of information already there that's not very accessible, especially to people who aren't affiliated with a university where we have access to some of those things. But the other thing that you said is a lot of people want to know what's going on right now, and they're getting teasers of that, I guess, from people going on. But I bet a lot of the listeners don't even know what's going on in their own state right now.
Sure.
I know I get asked about that a lot. And, we have, a lot of us are scientists, and we're designing experiments and doing great work. And we're not always the best communicators. And it's not, you may not be getting that information in real time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those projects aren't designed to deliver information in real time.
Right, yeah.
So, that's another thing I think that we can really do here that would be really great, is that we can try to start targeting. A lot of those people are our friends and colleagues, and we can start reaching out to them and try to give people an update local to wherever they're listening on the turkey research that's being done in their state right now.
Absolutely. So digging into background of the scientific literature, bringing on experts, having open discourse, opportunity for presentation of multiple sides of an issue is something we're going to do. Research updates So, like what's going on in your backyard kind of thing, trying to get awareness out of what's going on.
And then with the updates, I think it would be really awesome for us. We counted at least 12 or 13 turkey projects that are ongoing.
Yeah.
Getting the scientists that
I'm
are
sure
leading those. The other thing is we have state agency personnel, turkey project leaders, a lot of those people we know, and they can give us a good idea of the problems in the state or, what the status is in the state. So we could be giving you updates either way.
Sure.
And I think one thing we haven't mentioned, but I feel particularly strong about, we'll see if you agree with me on this. I really think, we want people to listen to this and take home something that's going to help you make more turkeys.
Right.
Make better decisions. And some of that is not going to be obvious to us what it is that you need and want to listen to. So I really think that we want the audience to be involved in this.
Yeah.
Whether you're sending us messages on social media, we'll probably periodically put out calls for ideas.
Listener submitted questions.
Yeah, what you want to hear about. We have a pretty good idea on some of those issues that people really want to know about because we get plenty of questions and we're hunters and we have a finger on the pulse, so to speak. But, I really like the idea of trying to make this sort of a positive feedback where the audience is more engaged and helping us share this podcast with as many people as possible, all for the resource and making it enjoyable and not, sharing of knowledge that you want. So sort of that positive feedback where you give us feedback on what you want.
Yeah.
So that we can cover it. And then hopefully that'll make it relevant. Make it relevant, make it really successful. Ultimately, the more people listening to this and the more that we get knowledgeable about the resource, hopefully the better we can collectively manage it. And that's what it's going to take at the landscape scale to start, really moving the needle in these populations.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that other researchers have highlighted is giving sometimes the necessity of giving state agencies license to make decisions to protect populations of turkeys that they think are having problems. And some of this information, I think, could go towards that by helping people that are interested in managing and hunting turkeys, why states may be thinking that the way that they are, and hopefully build some of that support and rapport and give them the license to do what they need to do and evaluate how effective that is, hopefully, and then adapt if necessary to those changes going forward longer term.
I think it's really important, and I know I'm pretty excited about this. I don't even know what to expect, but I know you and I both. There are a lot of people out there wanting to hear some science about turkeys,
right?
And I'm pretty excited about that because that's why we're here.
Yeah,
I grew up loving hunting and fishing, and I got into this because of that passion, and I genuinely want there to be more turkeys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even if I don't have access to them.
Yeah.
I just need that to be.
Yeah.
And if I can help with that, and that's why I'm excited, because I know there are people sitting there.
Right.
If you're one of those people, help us share this thing. We want it to be successful. We want TFT to stay interested and involved. That's their mission, is to disseminate information. That's why they, were interested in helping us do this. And the more people we can get engaged, the better we can do that.
And to provide a little bit of backstory on how this kind of all got started, you and I were talking about it for a while. You were trying to rope me into it, and I was being non-committal. But, it really started to grow legs and gain some momentum. And we knew that we were going to need some funding because...
That's the same thing turkeys do. They grow legs and then they gain them.
Right. And so, as it started to kind of evolve, we knew we were going to need some funding because you and I, with our normal job duties, we don't have the time to do all the production and editing and everything that goes into something like this. And so we need funding to have that support in place. And as soon as we mentioned it to TFT, those guys, I was talking to, Chase Grubbs about it and Ron Jolly about it. And they had already purchased some podcasting equipment because they had planned to start their own podcast.
Yeah.
And as soon as we mentioned this to them, they weren't really sure what direction that they were going to go yet, because like we were talking about at the beginning of this, the market's saturated with podcasts, and even like within the turkey niche, there's a lot of podcasts there.
A lot of really good ones.
Exactly. And so they weren't quite sure yet exactly where theirs was going to fit in, or direction that it was going to take. And we already had this concept developed, and as soon as we shared it with them, they got really excited about it.
Yeah. I was kind of blown away, honestly. I didn't expect them to immediately be like, "Yep, this is it. This is what we need to do." They genuinely, they're for turkeys, right? So
I think it was a matter of a couple weeks. They had a board meeting and presented the packet that we put together with our concept for the podcast to the board, and my understanding is it was unanimously approved.
Yeah, so that was really great, and I think it shows a lot about the organization, where their heart is, and they legitimately are trying to help turkeys.
Yeah,
and they're showing that in a lot of ways, which I think is really cool, and it's awesome that they're wanting to support this effort.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no secret that I've got a big research project partially funded by them right now. They were one of the big co-funders that was important in getting it off the ground, along with the Alabama Wildlife Federation. And throughout that entire process, anyone that's come to the table and wanted to help out or participate in that research, they're not being territorial.
Yeah,
they're saying this is going to take all hands on deck. So I think the critical mass is there right now, and Turkeys for Tomorrow has been gaining momentum and making waves already. They're funding some work with me in Alabama. They're funding some work with Mike Chamberlain now. I think that's in Kentucky. They're funding some work with researchers at Mississippi State, in the state of Mississippi, some genetic work over there. So, when you consider that this is an organization that's only, I think they're a little over a year old now, maybe a year and a half old.
That's incredible.
And they've got all that going on, direct on the ground research being funded, a podcast being funded that's based on turkey science.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
It is. It really is. I didn't even realize they were that young. I was trying to think of how old. I know you've worked with them much more closely than I have, and only recently, especially with the podcast, have I been involved at all. But yeah, it's pretty incredible how much ground they've made in such a quick time. Yeah,
Carter Weeks, who I believe now is one of their board members, he's local here to the Auburn area, and he contacted me. I think it was right around Easter. It may have even been Easter weekend of 2020, and said, "Hey, we're looking to we're a new organization. We're looking at getting some things off the ground, research related. Try to figure out, what is going on with turkey populations." And that developed into my research project. That was the first funding from them came in late 21. We started rolling things out on the ground, catching turkeys, putting out gobble recording units, all that stuff in conjunction. Mike Chamberlain's working with us on that project too. And that was in, early 2022. So, I mean, it's all happened fast.
Yeah. Really, really awesome. Obviously I've been really focused on habitat stuff, and I've known your work really well, and I'm sure that we've probably been reviewers on each other's papers. I know I have been on some of yours before, but
I try to be as critical as possible on yours.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. You're reviewer number 2, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, but we both have that strength, I guess, that or that focus area that we're really into habitat management and how to really move the needle on that. And I think that's one of the important reasons for us to try to branch out and use our connections to get the people who work on other types of things.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in the people that do more of the population dynamics,
the disease work,
the behavior, reproductive ecology, disease,
all that stuff. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's one thing that I would like to be clear about up front is that I have a habitat bias.
Yeah.
And you heard it from the man himself first. Aldo Leopold said, if a habitat can't support game, it's not game habitat.
Yeah.
I mean, he said he had a predator aspect in there too, but in general, habitat is the foundation upon which everything else rests.
That's right.
Like I said, I'm biased.
But it's true. Like you can't get around it.
Right.
If turkeys don't have anything to eat, it doesn't matter if they're predators. I mean, it's just like if that's you have to have the habitat to support large populations before you can support big populations.
And I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this because I know we're planning on an upcoming episode that's going to relate to all this. One of our first ones, but good habitat can offset a lot of negative limiting factors on turkey populations.
It's affecting everything all at once.
Yes,
you're affecting how vulnerable are they to different things, predators. The
good habitat makes a population resilient.
Right. You are potentially addressing many issues with the same actions, and often really efficiently in terms of cost and time.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that, and we're going to try to stay as objective as possible. I think we know there's more to it than habitat, but also that's often something neglected. So you're not going to shy away from making sure that's known too.
Absolutely.
So, well, I think we've rambled on plenty about us. I did want to ask you one closing question about you.
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
My daughter asks me this all the time.
Wait, hold on. Let's put some context. It has to be associated with a turkey.
Well, can I put more context to it?
Sure.
I'm red-green colorblind.
Oh,
so
no.
This is a challenging question for me to address. But I can still see feather iridescence.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know, it's like second. No, I'm not gonna be that dramatic, but the iridescence of turkey feathers is a sight to behold. I mean, obviously that's a pretty
well, I was thinking, what if I got
cliche answer for this podcast?
Yeah, well, that was part of the point. One of the colors that is the most special thing to me that I've ever seen, and I've seen it only a handful of times, but it has been special every time. You know how right after you've burned, and even when there's still some smoke, and it's not today that it burned, but it was just in the last week or something. There's a few things still smoking. That backdrop of charcoal, and then having a turkey coming right after fly down where you can't see the turkey. The whole body, can't see any of it. All you can see is that glowing cotton ball head floating.
Right.
Right. That is my favorite color.
Is that a color though?
It is. It's white. It's cotton. It's cotton color.
So what you're saying is your favorite.
It has to be on that backdrop in that setting.
Okay.
For it.
Because it sounds to me like you're saying your favorite color is white, which is pretty basic.
It's whatever the color of their head is when they're really fired up and coming, and the backdrop is that charcoal black.
Well, now since you said that, can I change my answer?
No.
It's just the charcoal black. The charcoal black after a burn. I love that.
Yeah. My favorite smell is like right after a fresh burn. Yeah. Also, like when right after it's rained and you can smell the the concrete
or a prescribed burn in the distance.
Ooh.
Like every now and then, we got a lot of people actively managing habitat for wildlife around Auburn.
Yeah.
And especially during
you go outside
late winter, early spring, campus will get socked in sometimes, and I walk outside and I love it. That's definitely my favorite smell.
Yeah, we're getting sentimental now. It's probably time to end this one. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's our first episode. Hopefully, we're going to have many more of these, and they're going to be really entertaining. We're going to try to have a lot of fun with it while we're delivering the best turkey science that's available to you.
Wild Turkey Science.
Wild Turkey Science University.
All right, I guess that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Wild Turkey Science is sponsored by Turkeys for Tomorrow and is part of the Natural Resources University podcast network. For more information, follow us on social media linked in the show notes below.